The Big Séance Podcast, episode 26. Is that actually helpful information for you to know up front? Do you like it? Is it annoying? Let me know. Welcome to the Big Séance Podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSéance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the seance. Well, come on in and welcome to the parlor here at the Big Séance Podcast. Today I have with me a psychic who happens to be right here, pretty much, in my own backyard. Well, she's not really in my backyard. That would be kind of weird, but we're definitely close enough here in the St. Louis region that we could go meet for coffee sometime. And I'm talking about professional psychic and clairvoyant Angela Thomas. She is noted over her 30-year practice for high accuracy and detail. She is a subject participant in an elite consciousness research study focusing on precognition and has gained an enviable reputation for her psychic work in private sessions for individuals, business leaders, and celebrities. Her work has also included crime victim location and recovery, and she is a vocal advocate for related causes. Her professional website is angelathomas.org. Angela is co-founder of YourPsychicServicesBusiness.com, and her other website is ChooseAPsychic.com. She has appeared on George Norrie's television show, Beyond Belief, on the Gaia Network. She also co-hosted a popular paranormal topics radio show called Portal Paranormal Talk Radio on the Paranormal Radio Network for 2 years. A natural psychic of high reputation, Angela has a deep involvement in developing psychic methodologies and has pioneered several of her own, including three-dimensional tarot and her own remote viewing protocol. She teaches psychic development at the college level and has collaborated with some of the top psychics in the nation. Angela is an adjunct professor of communications for Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri, and holds a BA in communications and an MFA in writing. A proud product of the New Orleans psychic community, she now lives and works in the St. Louis, Missouri metropolitan area. And I want to quickly add that Angela has a book coming out in the spring of 2015, which she'll probably tell us a little bit about later. And it's called Three-Dimensional Tarot, The Art of Gathering Information. Hello there, Ms. Thomas. How are you?
Well, hello, Patrick. Thank you very much for that nice welcome.
No problem. I'm excited for our conversation tonight. And someone local here in the area. Kind of cool.
Absolutely.
So I need to thank Angela publicly because we actually tried this interview yesterday, but we had some technical difficulties and she made some room in her schedule to try again today. So thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome, Patrick.
So I have so many questions for you, and I'm kind of struggling with the proper order to put them in, I guess. But maybe we should start with, when did it become apparent that you were gifted in these areas? And also tell us a little about your background and how you got started professionally.
Well, Patrick, like us all, we all have psychic abilities. And, I started recognizing my abilities as a child. But as I grew older, I thought, well, let's just go back a little bit. When I was a child, I thought everyone had the abilities, that it was nothing unusual. But when I, got older and in my early teens, I recognized that these are not things that everyone is experiencing. So, I really tackled with the decisions about, coming forth as a psychic and letting others know that I had psychic abilities. I was generally raised in the South, and, in the Mississippi, Louisiana area. And so, that's a very high Catholic Baptist area.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, as a young woman, those type of things were frowned on. About the only area that was open to the metaphysical or the supernatural or anything of that nature was New Orleans, Louisiana. So I lived on and off in New Orleans for well over 30 years. So, I began my journey and sort of coming out from the New Orleans area.
So can I assume that you also have like mediumistic things going on too?
I do. But Patrick, that's something that's not my forte.
Mm.
And so I don't offer it as a private session. I'm not going to try to communicate, with spirits as a booked session. It just does not come to me like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do have mediumship abilities. Oftentimes when I am in a psychic reading, then I'm hearing spirits who wish to communicate with the one that I am reading for. But many times I don't deliver the messages. And if I'm aggravated enough, or if I feel like there's a really important message, then I will stop the psychic reading, deliver the message very quickly, and then go back to the psychic reading. But yes, I certainly do receive communication from the spirit world.
Aggravated enough. That's funny.
Well, aggravated or, because I'm not asking for it. And I know that, many mediums out there certainly do welcome the communication from the afterlife. However, I don't always welcome that communication. I'm not inviting it. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking for it. But, these spirits take the opportunity when they have one to connect with a messenger to be able to communicate their messages to their loved ones.
So one of the things I'm most excited to talk about are your big strengths of precognition and remote viewing research and the studies that you've participated in. What is that like?
Well, it's wonderful. It's been about 7 years now that I've been one of 8 that's being studied, under the study of precognition, through a scientist and also a medical doctor. The doctor has 9 different degrees in the science and the medical field. And, I'm presenting predictions in a scientific format. So there's no really if, ands, or buts or iffy anything. It's very specific information that is given so that it is, when the prediction happens or doesn't, then that can be proven or disproved, you see. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing that, like I said, nearly 7 years now. I am definitely known for my precognitive abilities and the details. And so thus far, I've had a good success rate.
Can you, just to make it clear for us, can you tell us maybe both what precognition and remote viewing are?
Well, precognition is the ability to see future events. And so, future events such as, natural disasters or something happening politically or, any number of events throughout the world. And I give a daily forecast on world events, by the way, outside of the study of precognition. So that is precognitive, the ability to look into the future. And then also remote viewing, Patrick, if you are familiar with the Stargate program that occurred for 25 years with the United States government, Dr. Russell Targ and Harold Putoff was approached by the psychic Ingo Swann, which is the father of remote viewing. He was a well-known psychic that took his methods to Targ and Putoff, and they in turn took that method to the United States government, where for 25 years they trained psychic spies during the Cold War. So after the Cold War ended, then they no longer needed the program and disbanded. So remote viewing is the ability to sit wherever you are in this world and see a person, place, or object anywhere in the world from your armchair. It differs from astro projection, So you are able to get closer to the target or further away from the target, to move around through means of your mind.
Now, does this include jumping back to other times, or is that something different?
That is something different. You are doing remote viewing in real time. However, I can say to you, because I am a clairvoyant, that I have had experiences during remote viewing where I had to stop myself and say, wait a minute, is this the person's that I've, let's say, tracked? Is this his or her, recent past action or a memory? It gets very convoluted. And I try to stay away from that and stick to normal remote viewing protocols. Because once you start venturing away from those protocols, it can get very confusing, and that message or that image can completely disappear.
That is so fascinating. Obviously, you're very much into your predictions, and anyone who follows you on your website or social media can see your predictions. Are these, a lot of these daily predictions and regular predictions, are they different from what is going on in the study, or are they some of the same predictions that you make for the study?
No, actually they differ, and thank you for asking that, Patrick. My daily forecast of world events is what I call growth year predictions. And those predictions are made with shorter time frames in mind. The predictions that I give to the study of precognition has an 18-month time frame to them. So anytime between the day that I give them to 18 months out, those events would happen within that timing. So whether that's 2 days from the day I predicted it, or 2 hours from it, or 2 months from then, you understand it. The study of precognitive predictions are 18-month time frames. However, the shorter time frames are for the growth year predictions, which are given almost daily.
And on episode 24 of the Big Séance Podcast, back on December 23rd of 2014, I released a special 2015 predictions episode in which Angela, you may remember hearing Angela give her predictions for the next 18 months. And it's important to note that her predictions were actually made and recorded on November 24th of 2014. And I want to go ahead and play that clip for you. So let's listen to that now.
Hello, this is Psychic Angela Thomas here to give you predictions over the next 18 months. Today is November 24th, 2014, and these predictions will go until the second quarter of 2016. Number one prediction is the United States will be involved in a new war. Initially, words such as conflict and confrontation will be used to soften the realism of the situation. Secondly, the United States economy will suffer another recession as well as a depression. Thirdly, let's talk about Russia. Russia will directly threaten the United States. Also, Russia will take on new territory by force other than today's Ukraine that they have invaded. North Korea will push the envelope by attacking South Korea. North Korea will also lose its leader, Kim Jong-un. Lastly, the UK will lose a member of its royal family. And that's my predictions between right now and 18 months from now.
So, Angela, tell us how these predictions came to you and what's your process?
Well, when I'm making a daily prediction on world events, I don't have a protocol as I do, let's say, with remote viewing. Because I am clairvoyant, that gives me the ability to reach into the past, focus on the present, and focus on the near future. So I am receiving, psychic impressions, clairvoyant impressions, such as I'm highly clairaudient. That's the ability to hear. Okay. And so I am given psychic impressions of, is this the United States, or is this Russia, or is this China, or whatever. And then I am given either colors or words or scenes, like a movie, of different events. So, for example, one of my first predictions on your recent show was that the United States will be involved in a new war. And initially, words such as conflict and confrontation will be used to soften the realism of the situation. And so I was given the American flag, so I knew it was the United States. I had images and sounds from the media calling it a conflict and a confrontation. And that was to try to divert, any kind of panic from the population or any kind of questions as to what was really going on. So that's how I, put together some of those predictions. Other times I hear it. For example, I heard Russia will directly threaten the United States, clear as a bell. And, some people might go, well, that Angela is crazy. She's hearing things, right? But because I am clairaudient, I know the difference between those guides or messengers that let me know and something that is a little bit, imaginative on my side of the fence.
So you must have this weird kind of conflict going on in your head where, a lot of these predictions aren't necessarily fun predictions.
Right.
And so, clearly we wouldn't want a lot of these predictions to happen, but yet you want to be confident in your abilities too. That must be kind of a strange experience.
Well, Patrick, I thought about it long and hard because, there for quite a few years, I would give my predictions to the study for precognition. And then I would publish certain predictions on my website. And then I stayed silent to the public for the really doom and gloom ones and only shared that, with the psychic research team. Mm-hmm. But then I thought, I can't say everything because, I probably have people sending me hate mail. But, I feel that it's important to really put it out there. And that is one of the reasons I started the growth year predictions, because I said, right or wrong, I'm going to put out what I'm receiving. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the time to scan every day and see what the media is saying and try to, be up to date on every single prediction that I've given. But I do have people from time to time that will email me the links or say, hey, give me a call. Hey, Angela, guess what's just happened? So, because I have a very busy schedule and I'm, all over the place. So one of these days, I'm hoping to either hire individuals to post those links to those predictions, or just trust that the reader will say, aha, I'm very much aware of that event happening. So, but I feel as a psychic, you need to go ahead and put it out there, whether it's good or bad. And people have a tendency, Patrick, to, if it's all positive and good news, feel good kind of stuff, they don't really pay much attention to that. Like mm-hmm. Who's going to win the Miss America contest? Okay, Jane Doe. And, that doesn't stay in their minds. But when you say, for example, that North Korea will push the envelope by attacking South Korea, that type of prediction, that type of information sticks in the mind of the listener mm-hmm. or the reader. And so, I cover all types of predictions and I give them in different ways and different places.
Yeah, and you just answered my next question. I was looking forward to hearing, how you do get your validation. And so you do have people sending you validation in some cases?
I do. They call me or they email me or they post, a private message on Facebook, or they contact me in some way, shape, or form. I used to, Patrick, go to sleep listening to CNN when CNN was 24/7 news, mm-hmm. constantly. And I would wake up to CNN. And the reason I did that is because I had predicted so much that I wanted to hear, Why is it happening today? And oftentimes I would go, when I would hear the news on television, I go, that sounds familiar. And I would literally have to go to my website and look at my predictions and say, there it is. That's why it sounds familiar, because I predicted that 8 months ago.
Well, that could probably get a little addictive too, trying to go back and forth validating your predictions, because you make a lot of them. I
do.
So do your predictions ever change over time? Like, do you ever edit them if you get a different, feeling and you're like, nope, I think I'm feeling this?
No, I never edit my predictions. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Again, right or wrong, or if my timing is a little bit off, but it is what it is. And that's another reason why I post my growth year predictions on Facebook, so that I have the date and timestamp given to that prediction. That way, if somebody ever questioned, oh, well, she probably changed that to make it match this event, they can literally go back and, I can provide evidence of that prediction.
Is a premonition the same thing as what happens when you get predictions?
Yes, it is. And it's very similar to a prediction. A premonition is the ability to see an event, a happening coming on. Mm-hmm. So a prediction is being able to state what that is.
So, we're both right here in Missouri, and the St. Louis region for many months now has been the center of a lot of heated national debate about civil rights, crime, emotions, protests, and what do you see, if anything, down the line for our area and the situation that's so, big in the news right now?
Well, for the St. Louis area, or for the region, I really do feel like this is going to be an ongoing awareness being given by, community members, and also those up and coming civil rights activists. I say up and coming, those that are trying to make a career out of it will be very vocal and continue to refer to Michael Brown and refer to what's happening between law enforcement and particular communities. So, this news story, it has gone beyond news. It's become a national movement. Mm-hmm. And so that will, this has kind of catapulted a national movement. And so I really do feel like, each anniversary of Michael Brown's passing, that there will be, new demonstrations and new public ceremonies and things of that nature. It would not surprise me if there is not some sort of statue or image that is created of Michael Brown to stand for the cause. Mm-hmm. And so that's what, we can also expect, Patrick, that there will be additional conflicts and additional deaths between some community members and police officers. And so it's kind of started a whole new, I hate to use the word revolution, but I'm going to use that just to as an example, to express that there are going to be challenges to police officers or law enforcement officers from community members, which will result in death.
So clearly we've got some issues to work through, and they're going to be here for a while.
Certainly.
When I come back with Angela, she'll tell us about her biggest recent predictions that ended up really happening.
You're listening to the Big Séance Podcast with Patrick Keller. Look for us on iTunes and be sure to check out bigseance.com for more discussion.
Hi guys. I wanted to break into the interview to talk about a reading that Angela actually gave me about a week ago, which actually happened about a week after the interview you're hearing in this episode. So last week, I was planning my 400th blog post at bigseance.com, kind of a big moment for me, and I suddenly felt drawn to get my tarot cards out.
I haven't used them in probably a year or two. I've only experimented with the tarot after reading a few books on the topic, so I certainly am not a tarot card reader. But I was actually inspired to do this in the middle of the night, which is kind of weird, so I got out of bed for this. But what I ended up doing was a 3-card spread for the past, present, and future of BigSéance.com and the Big Séance Podcast. Well, in that order, I ended up pulling the Queen of Pentacles, the Tower, and the Devil. Now, if you are familiar with tarot cards, you know that many of the cards, like the Devil, for example, aren't always literal. And even though some of the cards appear to be sort of graphic, they aren't always negative. All cards could have positive and negative meanings. But I couldn't help it. I own the classic Rider-Waite tarot deck, and the Tower card depicts lightning striking and burning a tall tower with windows, and people are jumping from the tower to escape the flames. And the Devil, well, I don't need to explain that one. So I instantly worried. Did I really want to post this 3-card spread on the blog? Does it spell out disaster? Did I not shuffle well enough? Or even, should I just redraw the 3 cards and not tell anyone? Well, I decided to take a picture of my cards and send it to Angela, along with what I had planned and why I drew them. Well, Angela was kind enough to take time out to give me a thorough reading based on the cards that I pulled. She reminded me that there are positive and negative meanings to the cards, and then gave me a really exciting and detailed reading that put my mind at ease. I did not include the reading in the blog, and I won't here either, because some of the details are personal. And some of them were not, but I kind of want to sit on them and process them for a while. But the coolest thing is she already nailed 3 or 4 big things with incredible accuracy. And of course, a lot of my reading is intended for the future, so that's yet to be seen. But it was so cool, and I felt like this was the perfect episode to tell you. I'll put the link to my 400th post with my 3-card tarot spread in the show notes, or you can just search for 3-card tarot spread in the search box at BigSéance.com. Feel free to give me your own interpretation of my cards, just like Ashley did on Facebook and Lee Allen Howard did on the site. I look forward to hearing from you. One more thing before we get back to the interview. I haven't given my listeners any homework for a while, so if you liked this episode, would you please consider giving it a share or a tweet or a pin on the social media platform of your choice? I just know that there are a few fellow paranerds out there yet just waiting for the Big Séance Podcast to find them. And if you ever visit iTunes or Stitcher, a review really helps me out as well. And I would certainly appreciate it. And I would love to mention your review in a future episode. So thank you, friends. Now I'll take us back to the rest of my interview with psychic Angela Thomas.
Thanks for joining us for the Big Séance Podcast. We'd better get back to the table while there's still some candlelight left.
So can you tell us about maybe 1 or 2 of your biggest validations or confirmations from predictions or readings that are just really impressive?
Let me go and hold on.
Go through those files in your brain.
Let's see. Let's go with some recent ones because I've got years of them. Let's see. Television journalist, reporter dies. And then I made that on August 31st, and September the 2nd then comes the beheading of American journalist Stephen Sotoloff. I predicted a president of the United States at risk from an assault and makes the news. And of course, same day, later on, when I make the prediction, let's say for August 29th, it was made previous to August 29th. So it'd be made the day or two before the actual date. And so on August 29th, then of course the there was a report on reporters investigate suspected threat against President Obama. There was something, there's so many of them. August 28th, I said a plane taunted by another plane maneuvered to challenge an enemy. And on September 8th, the Russian military plane buzzed HMCS Toronto in the Black Sea. Goodness, let's see.
Wow.
I'm just looking for all kinds of things. I mean, some people I name and they absolutely come up. You know, for example, I said back on August 14th that a procedure for an actress or a female celebrity does not go well, health risk beyond a botched job outcome. And then we get that Joan Rivers was rushed to the hospital. And prior to that, I said that Joan Rivers would be in headline news. Prior to that, she, within a day or two, was already within the news because she had insulted Obama and his wife. And there was a lot of hate mail and things coming up. I'm just looking really quick. I talked about Ebola, and then boom, what comes up is Ebola all over the world, you know, in Africa.
Wow.
Let's see what else. I'm just trying to go from month to month very quickly. Okay. So for the prediction that I made for July 11th, I said plane shot down. And then what occurred on July 17th of 2014 was that the missile shot down the Malaysian Airlines plane.
Wow.
Also for July 11th, I said that North Korea fires missile towards South Korea. And then on July 30th, South Korea says that North Korea fires 4 projectiles.
Projectiles.
Yes. Let's see. For July 13th, I said news of enemies and more enemies. Israel will find itself surrounded by enemies that travel from afar to take up the battle for Palestine. And so on the 29th of July, Iran's supreme leader calls on Muslims to arm Hamas for fight against the rabid dog Israel. So there was a call to other Muslims throughout the world to come there and fight, just as predicted. Let's see what else. On July 29th, I predicted that news coverage on a train derailment, and on the 29th itself, Amtrak services delayed in Morrisville due to a freight train derailment. For the same date, for July 29th, I predicted that Spain reports a car bombing, and on August 7th, just a week later, 9 injured in Spanish bomb blasts.
Your ability to predict so many international stories is very impressive because it's not on, you know, most people's radar at all.
Well, I think it's been my experience. You know, I'm very much, into politics and international relations. And so it's an interest of mine, but, you know, I don't have time to follow it like I used to, but, you know, I'm certainly aware of, let's say, Russia. I've studied Russian history and contemporary Russian history and Russian authors. And so I'm very familiar with, the many cultures of Russia because I've studied it and been familiar with it. And so being able to predict on an international scale is due to, I think, Patrick, my many years of, being around on this earth, and being interested in world affairs. So, and of course, having the experience of giving predictions both as a professional and, towards the study, then, it just helps all the way around. So I guess experience.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your readings.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to one of your readings that you've given on another radio program, and I have to say you give a lot of information, and once the information comes to you, it's like it just doesn't stop. It just rolls right on out.
Right.
How does your work differ when it comes to a personal psychic reading? Do you use the tarot for all of your readings?
I do use the tarot for the majority of my readings because I developed a tarot methodology to pull out the details of the cards. And let me just say this, that, when I pull out the tarot, and use it, I'm using it as psychic tarot. So in other words, I'm not reading card for card, like saying, Patrick, this card means that you're going to receive a message, nothing so vague. It's just like it gets me jump started or gives me a string of information. And then I'm tossing cards out. Half the time I'm not even looking at them. Mm-hmm. If I am hearing, I love to use the example of if I'm hearing clairaudiently Washington and I'm not getting any impression, I will look at the tarot and say, is that Washington State or Washington, D.C. or a street, Washington Street or a person named Washington, et cetera, et cetera. But my readings, are like you heard on that recording. Generally, I ask the individual any kind of specific questions or areas of concern before I ever read. And then I ask that individual if they will just remain silent. In other words, we're not engaging in dialogue. I'm wanting them to listen. Hopefully they're recording it. And that way, I'm able to hurry up and deliver the messages. And if you can imagine hearing sounds and seeing different pictures and getting impressions, psychic impressions, and that's happening bam, 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 bam to you, for me, I have to hurry up and pick out information that I find that's important for the person I'm reading for. Because if I'm not hurrying up to pull that information out, it just goes by very quickly. So if I were reading for you and you wanted to engage me in dialogue, then you're taking me out of that ability to receive that information very rapidly. So, if I'm giving a reading, you're interrupting me through dialogue and you keep on interrupting me, I'm going to lose that message. Or if you said, Angela, what did you say 10 minutes ago about, Mr. Johnson? Well, I won't remember more than likely what I said about Mr. Johnson. So it's very important for that person to remain silent and allow me to deliver the messages. If, of course, there's something that person does not understand, then certainly I want them to stop me at that time and say, what do you mean? Or can you rephrase that? Otherwise, I just want them to listen.
So that's some serious multitasking.
Yes, it is.
It's very much like teaching. I think both you and I would understand that as well.
Right.
So tell us about your new book coming out soon, 3-Dimensional Tarot.
Well, 3-Dimensional Tarot, The Art of Gathering Information, is coming out this spring. I have been coddling this book for quite a few years, Patrick, and finally I have the ability to put it out there. But I created this methodology for tarot readers out there to really be able to pull details out of the cards, not to rely on some generalized positive or negative message associated in some book. I want them to be able to say that, a man named John or James from the eastern side of the United States, specifically maybe New York City or New Jersey, will be communicating with you, Jane Doe, between now and the next 3 or 4 days. And this is what he will be saying or what he will be proposing. So pulling details out, because really, Patrick, isn't that what we all want? Mm-hmm. Don't we all want details? If I said to you, hey, Patrick, someone is going to come to your home between now and the next 2 days to talk to you about something important. Well, that's very vague, other than, well, they're coming to talk to you about something important. But if I said that there is a gray and blue SUV that's pulling up in your drive, and the conversation is going to be regarding your home, then that gives you more specific details. And I may not know as a psychic all about what's going on with your home, but you do.
Yeah.
So then you can anticipate that visitor pulling up in that SUV, and you can plan. So to me, the ability to receive a detailed reading, the benefit of it, I should say, is so that you can make more informed decisions. I, as a psychic, cannot tell you or anybody what to do. I can only deliver the messages, and then you have to take it from there.
I had to tell you, I have a lot of respect for people who know how to do tarot and are knowledgeable about that. And I have read a few of the popular, how-to tarot books, and obviously didn't, study it seriously. But, I spent some time going through, and I have no clue how anyone would do it without taking an entire class on it. I mean, there are a lot of complicated details involved.
Well, there is a lot of details to tarot, and, you can take many classes, Patrick, and still not, learn everything about tarot. Tarot, to me, is a lifelong study and a lifelong learning experience. About 3 or 4 years ago, I came across Dr. Robert O'Neill's Tarot Library online. And, of course, I found out there was a book that he had written many years ago, which is no longer available in print. And so I went in search of this book. Why? Because I looked at his library online, and what this man did was he went back into the history of tarot and was able to show how tarot images and tarot cards changed, and how or what he thought was the first association with certain meanings. And so because I'm a tarot fan, then I went out in search of his book, and I found it finally and paid a very big penny for it. And I haven't read it, from cover to cover, but, I'm always fascinated as to where the origins came from, why that particular card is what it is, and why maybe that root meaning is what it is. But I don't really rely on root meanings at all. I really have my own interpretations of the tarot. But, still it's very much needed to at least know a few of the root meanings before you get into your own interpretations.
An awesome resource to have, then. That's cool.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of classes, you teach some psychic development classes as well. Are any of these online? Do your students have to be local for these classes?
Well, actually, currently, I'm teaching at a community college each fall now. I used to offer them 3 seasons out of 4, but I'm down to the fall season where I can introduce my beginning, intermediate, and advanced classes. But I will be actually taking psychic development workshops as well as classes online in May. So through the Psychic Learning Network, which is a website that, has yet to be published, but I've been working on it for quite a while.
Cool.
And so it's not only myself teaching, but I do have other instructors whose forte, let's say a numerologist, for example. I've got a psychic medium that speaks English and Spanish fluently. And so I have other instructors that are able to bring their specialties in, and who will also be offering classes.
Very cool. We'll have to stay updated on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard through the grapevine, which just happens to be where a few of your students may or may not hang out, former students. And yes. I heard that one of the Village people is a client of yours. Is this true?
Well, yes. I have some celebrity clients all over the world. And so, yes, one of the Village people is a client.
I was told to ask that. And I said, are you sure that's okay to ask? She said, yes, absolutely, ask that.
Right. I just can't name the name.
Or the character.
Because, he hasn't given me permission to publicize that. I would love to say, hey, look at all my celebrity clients. I have celebrities I read for. I have politicians I read for. I read for some lawyers, attorneys. So, I have the full gamut. clientele, including, your average Jane and John Doe out there. So I feel very blessed, though, Patrick, because, I am able, because I have an international clientele and a full array of different types of clients, I feel very blessed because I'm able to communicate with those people. I find most people very fascinating. Even the average John and Jane Doe, there's still certain aspects of their life or of their thinking that's just, remarkable.
And you're helping people too.
Yes, I'm hoping that I'm helping people. I always say I'm just the messenger. And, I hope that I give them enough details, Patrick, so that, that person can make their own decision and feel good about it.
So wrapping up here, what exactly do you see for yourself in the next 18 months? Do you have anything exciting coming up?
Well, I have some workshops and classes that I'm offering in the local community. I'm doing the online classes. I'm going to be moving, still within the area, but a lovely historical home. I'm doing a lot of things. I've got a television radio show that is being produced for me very soon. So, there's a lot of things going on, and of course, continuing to, guest on television and radio. So, a lot of activity going on for me in 2015.
Cool. That's exciting. And I have a lot of your links and stuff in the bio, and I'll include them in the show notes. But is there any other information you want to share as far as maybe social media or websites or anything like that?
I certainly do wish to share with you, something very important. Back in, goodness, it must have been July or August of 2014, my partner, Victoria Duff, who is a former Wall Street professional, she and I, have collaborated on many things, and she brought a bit of information that turned out to be very important to the two of us. IBIS had finally recognized the psychic services industry, and that particular organization reports to Wall Street so that those, stockbrokers and professionals, investors, can see what's, trending in industries. So finally, the psychic services industry had their own category, and certainly it's up and coming, as far as a big money maker and wonderful things coming around the corner. And so we began to discuss the, general attitude from the general population about psychics and psi-based businesses. And we discussed, how some of those individual practitioners were not always honest. There are psychic scammers out there. There are psychic wannabes out there. There are individuals that may read a book and then they advertise that they're a professional psychic and they start, charging for readings, and, they know very little about anything. And so we put together an organization and an industry journal called Your Psychic Services Business. And there's a .com behind that. So yourpsychicservicesbusiness.com. So our mission, Patrick, is to increase the image of professionalism, standardization, and integrity of psi-based business owners and individual practitioners in the psychic services industry. So we provide advice, educational content, such as how to market oneself. But we are, really wanting to promote ethical business practices out there. And so we, have taken on the task of collaborating with other organizations and practitioners in psi-based businesses to see this industry kind of be uplifted into the professional realm that it belongs in. So we really have scientists and doctors out there that are studying, the survival of consciousness, and we have professional psychics and psychic mediums. And so the serious ones out there that are professionals. That's what we want to associate with, not the gypsy clad uniform somebody's wearing with, crystals and tattoos all over themselves and presenting themselves as a psychic. Additionally, Patrick, we at the same time talked about how does, real psychics and real mediums and, astrologers and this, that, and the other, how can they be taken seriously and not get lost in the vast sea of advertisement? So we started a free directory called chooseapsychic.com. And that's up, that's new and recently put up. And we don't charge any sort of membership. We certainly do talk with the psychics and look into their background. And so we know that those are not psychic scammers. And so we provide that as a free directory for anybody that wishes to go to chooseapsychic.com and choose a psychic or an astrologer or a numerologist. And, by that way, they can contact them directly. We have contacted 3 very large organizations in the psychic industry that are nonprofits. They're research-based, and we are bringing them aboard your psychic services business and also taking some of their certified mediums and placing them on Choose a Psychic in the very near future. So we're growing by leaps and bounds. So, if you're a Psi-based business owner or an individual practitioner, you're going to want to go to yourpsychicservicesbusiness.com and learn a little bit more about maybe social media or marketing or professionalism.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how excited, first of all, I am to all of the predictions on that special predictions episode as the year goes along, and kind of have a tally sheet and keep track of them all. And so I'll be paying attention and kind of following things. That's exciting.
Well, wonderful, Patrick, and I've enjoyed speaking with you tonight.
For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit BigSéance.com, now the home of both the blog and the podcast. Just click on the Big Séance Podcast logo or find it in the menu. You can also find and subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher. Do you have any comments or feedback? Please contact me at patrick@BigSéance.com. You can call my feedback line at 7755-TELL-ME. That's 775-583-5563. You can also record audio feedback right from the site using the SpeakPipe link included in the show notes. I could decide to include your voice in a future show. Thank you so much for listening and reading. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.